Hello and welcome to podcast number 6, post Saudi Arabia, which is What a Crazy Grand Prix. I am Yusuf and this is my co-host Muhammad.
Yeah.
And this is our, we're the Drive to Survive, we're the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast. Because we came late to qualifying and we were on the dirty side of the grid.
It's so late, some might even call us Drive to Survive fans.
Oh my god, that was embarrassing.
I will use it that one. Right, let's keep going.
What a crazy race. It was a really good race.
Some might say.
But really action-packed, a lot of controversy, a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess you have to take it away.
Yeah, we'll try and rein it and see what kind of topics we can cover. See if we can mention a lot of the stuff, because there was loads of controversy in there. But I guess we'll start off completely unrelated, as we normally do, with your thing of the week this week. If you've got like a fun fact.
So this is the first championship where the drivers going into the last race are essentially on equal points since 1974. So these are the only 2 times in history where going into the final race it's been equal on points. I think that actually says a lot about the championship this year with all the controversy and everything. It's been so exciting.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting into Formula 1 this year, you've literally chosen the best year in the past 10 years. Or so.
Definitely.
Best year, because it's not been a team dominating or anything. It's been a back and forth between the teams. You've got controversy. You've got kind of a team stepping over the line. Maybe this team stepping over the line crashes. To compare, I don't know. It's really interesting, isn't it? You're getting a lot. It reminds me of watching James Hunt and Niki Lauda. I don't know why the movie where they're at each other's throat the whole time. This is what it kind of reminds me of. It's not maybe that intense because none of them went into fiery ball. But
Yeah, that was the year Niki Lauda had his infamous accident. But in general, there's been all sorts. We've had everything this year. It's all happened. We've had
new tracks.
Yeah, we've had new tracks. Obviously, the calendar's still trying to recover from COVID. We've had, statistically, the greatest driver of all time fighting with the driver who's not even at his peak yet, but on his way to reaching it. Obviously, I don't know why it's lying, bro. It's true. I'm just saying because it's part of it. Realistically, we've, clearly the greatest of his generation going up against the new generation. Maybe even the greatest of the new generation potentially could become the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
There are big narratives going into this year. There's big stuff. F1ers, Liberty Media have somehow got really lucky with this one. They've pulled it out. It's like F1ers come in, got a quick haircut, suit and tie.
No, but
looking best for the new fans.
But there is one thing that Christian Horner mentioned that I actually agree with. He's saying that if Charlie Whiting was here, what happened yesterday would not have happened. And I totally agree.
I agree with that too. We'll get into that. It's a little harsh on Masi, poor guy, but he's not wrong, really.
Realistically,
we'll start off.
We'll start
off. You know what? We'll start it off as we normally do. I feel bad for you this time because it's actually going to be a struggle, but we'll see how you do.
60 seconds.
You do pretty well normally.
Okay.
60-second summary of this weekend's action.
Okay.
Starting now.
No. You zero it, and then when I start talking, you start the timer.
Fine, right, go on.
So I can.
Oh, okay, yeah. You don't gather your thoughts for too long, bro.
Okay. I haven't started. I'm just.
Come on, I'm gonna start the timer now. Come on.
Okay, so. 1, 2, 3, go. Max almost gets pole, but for the first time in the year, he actually makes a mistake, crashes. Lewis gets pole. Red Bull had the quicker car in 1 lap. Mercedes had the quicker car over the race distance. We start the race, red flag. Mercedes screw the strategy. Max gets the jump on them, starts, and then what happens? I forgot. Ocon overtakes both Lewis and Max, goes into first position. Had another red flag. Lewis basically starts ahead of Max. Then Max overtakes Lewis and Ocon, leads the race. Lewis crashes into Max. Charles and Sainz have the incident. Fernando spins. Lando goes to the back of the grid from 5th or 6th. And then we have the incident with Lewis and Max hitting each other. Then Lewis overtaking Max, and then Lewis winning the race.
53.
Oh, okay.
No
I
way.
thought because you pressed, I
Wow.
thought I was out of time.
No,
I
no,
kept
no.
going.
Oh, it's because you looked at me. I thought you stopped.
No, because you pressed it before I stopped speaking, so I thought the time was over and you're just letting me finish what I was saying.
No, I didn't press anything until you looked at me, and then when you looked, I pressed it. And you were
To be fair, there's not really much else to say.
you were pretty much done.
I even commented on Lando and Fernando. Oh, the only thing I'd add is Daniel Ricciardo did really well.
True, yeah, and a
You got
Bottas
it.
on the line as well.
Yeah,
But, I mean,
Bottas
that
on
was
the
right at the end, so you might have even hit that if I didn't cut you off slightly. But that was pretty good. So
Bro,
we
I'm
will.
too good at this, bro. I'm too good at this.
You're not even going to be tested in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be like whoever wins the title, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, Max
That's
is gonna
the
win the
race
title.
well,
Hopefully-
we'll get into the predictions
hopefully
later.
Max wins the title.
You're so smug, you know. The little smile you have when you say that. Right. So, without getting
I
into
just,
details,
I just know it annoys you so much.
that's it. This is the one thing that they get me mad. Right. So,
Okay.
without getting into details, then we're gonna try talk about the race in general, just as a whole, because at the end we're gonna have to summarize and talk about Abu Dhabi. So, as a whole now, without getting into details of specifics and stuff too much, did you enjoy the race?
I think it was a lot of fun. I think you can say like there was everything in the race. Great overtaking, lots of drama, controversy. The only thing I would comment on the race is like George commenting on safety, which I don't think it's actually down to the racetrack because I think Monaco is maybe a bit like the same kind of like not maybe same because it's a bit slower, but like maybe Singapore because it's maybe as quick, or Baku is as dangerous. But I think the only reason they're not as dangerous is because the stewards have raced there, and so the race director. I don't get why Michael Masi did not stop, like, after the incident happened, they went 4 laps, people pitted, obviously people are gonna pit, and then he called a red flag, and then he called another red flag. The second red flag was because of that incident, like the start of the
Perez.
race.
So the first one was Mick Schumacher,
But
the second one was...
Even then, the
Perez.
track wasn't like I get those incidents, but it felt like it was a bit mismanaged, and like you got like 4 or 5 VSCs, is it not 4? Like
It was 4
it was
VSCs.
4 VSCs. Why? Because you can just call out a safety car, clear out the track for like 1-2 laps, and then get going. Don't call out 4 VSCs, and it's just useless, and it's stopping the racing. Like, Lewis is closing in on Max, who start trying to get drama VSC. Lewis closing in on VSC.
I was thinking this. It ruins the
It's
flow.
boring.
Really. It does ruin the flow.
I think that's why if someone says they dislike the race, I don't think it's because of the red flags. I think the red flags add a lot of drama into the race. You can argue about like should they be allowed to change tires under the
We'll
like a
mention
red
that more
flag,
later,
but
yeah.
that's a bit different, like a different conversation. But I think the red flag adds a bit of kind of dynamic interest into it. But I'm talking about like VSCs ruin it for me, and safety cars ruin it for me.
I'd say when the VSC is overused, yeah. Because the VSC by itself is meant to be...
VSCs this time has been used like 4 times, and they used it because he just call out a safety car, clear out the track, get going. He's not doing that. He's not calling a red flag. He just keeps calling VSCs because they're not. The marshals don't have enough time to clear out the track. Whether that's down to the marshals are not being trained well enough, because there's 400 marshals went over from Qatar to train the guys. Bahrain, sorry.
Yeah.
So there is maybe an argument of that, but Qatar as well was a new track.
They said the blind corners as well would have been a struggle for them.
Yeah, but I think that this is where the argument of like why are you using a VSC not a safety car? If they use a safety car, you bunch up. The marshals know the car's on the other side of the track. He goes, picks up everything, and
they have a lot of time.
A lot of time to clear. Whereas with the VSC, the cars are all over the track, and the marshals, you can see one of them like he jumped on track to pick up like it was like a very close to a racing like piece of debris from like a front wing, and he picks it up and he jumps back, and you can see like they're scared to jump on the track to get the debris because they don't know where the cars are. Get a safety car, bunch them all up, tell the stewards you're allowed to go on from here to here. No, you're not allowed, get off. Like do a light system, green, red, for them to jump on, clear the track, jump off. I think the fact is, with this racetrack, like as opposed to all others, is with others where crashes tend to happen, you can see the car coming, so you can, oh no, I can't go, I have to jump back.
Yeah.
With Saudi, it's not the straight line. It's not even like the. It's not the first 1-2 corners. It's after that. After that, it's mostly like blind corners the whole way.
Yeah.
And
There's not a lot of
except
straight
like the last corner maybe. And so you essentially, it's not about straight. It's about like the fact that the barriers. If there are no barriers, it's not that much of an issue.
Yeah.
The barriers block your view of the cars coming. The marshals are too scared to jump on. Makes sense because like.
You
I
can't
don't want to
trust the
get hit
GPS
by.
as well. You need to be very accurate.
Exactly, I don't want to get hit by a car going at like what still even 40% is like 140 kilometers an hour or a bit more. So I blame this like the Michael Masi. Like I guess he it's like a new racetrack and all of that, but the way he did it was not.
It was some of the stuff. So there's a lot of conversation about how we run it. And I'd say some of the stuff was understandable. We'll get into it later. Some of the stuff was a bit questionable. I'd say the one thing, though, the ironic thing is, the VSC was introduced in 2016 to not ruin a safety car. You imagine, without the VSC, there's one bit of front wing on the track. In a relatively dangerous place. There's no gaps on the circuit for the marshal to just hop on with yellow flags. Entire safety car comes out. You have all the cars bunch up. You have to wait for them to bunch up. Then you have to wait for the lapped cars to overtake, because that was a rule. Like, the lapped cars will have to go past, then create enough of a distance between them and the safety car. Then the safety car comes in and they do the restart. That's like 5 laps gone. Also going at a slower speed, which means that's like a good 20 minutes or whatever, or 15, maybe less.
Of the race time as well.
Of the race time,
2 hours.
So you've got all of that going on. So the VSC was introduced. It's like, it's a bit quick. You turn it on, they're going slower, quickly hop out, get the stuff, come back, turn it off again. But the fact they used it off and on. And to be fair to them, there was more debris coming off. Like Vettel after he crashed with Sonoda and Kimi. There's obviously more bits flying off. Lewis's car, I think, had less significant bits, but still bits of his front wing coming off. So it was being accumulated, but even then at the same time, like, you don't need like... There was definitely a more optimum way of doing it rather than 4 VSCs, because they were all within a very small period of the race.
It also depends on the track. Like, if you're a track like, say, France, and there's a VSC, not really an issue. I can see the cars, I can jump on. And like Monza as well. You feel safe jumping on. With Saudi, you can't see the cars. Even Qatar, Bahrain, all these tracks, you can see the cars you jump on. But I think what we've seen from the last 2 tracks is there were issues with... I don't really blame the marshals, but you can see kind of... They've not done this before. Even Qatar. You saw like the whole double wave, yellow flag not popping up, all that stuff. Yeah, because you're hiring volunteers that have not been trained to do the jobs. It's not their full-time... Like, I guess you don't want to hire...
They really should get paid, yeah.
But like, you're hiring volunteers that have not you've not trained them. You have to get guys train so they can do the job properly. Like, ideally you'd have like the marshals going around the world with them. Not really.
Maybe.
Not possible. Have 2 groups, 3 groups of like, okay, you guys will do like, say, 10 races, or like 7, or whatever, where one group will do like maybe a bit extra. Then it makes a bit more sense. But if you say like the marshals, like Saudi had literally, the marshals did not know what they were doing. I don't blame the marshals.
I'd say
it's more about the Qatar incident.
I'd say they were following instructions given to them, which were a bit like the instructions weren't exactly.
But you also have to say, like, I blame the FIA for this. Like, you should have, like, you have professional everything, and when it comes to marshals who are actually risking their lives,
treat them better, realistically.
Yeah, but I'd say that's the same point. It's like, when they're jumping on the track to get the debris. If you've been under these conditions before, for instance, when to go, when not to go. You're listening maybe for the car. Is the car coming? Is the car not coming? This type of stuff. But these guys have never done it before. I can imagine, like, if one guy missteps because he's not ever done this before, that's one guy getting hit by a car going at like at least like 150, 200 kilometers per hour.
So you don't like the idea of... I like the idea of having locals doing it, though.
No.
I like the idea of...
Fair enough, have locals doing it, but they need to be trained well enough to do it.
So the track should have been... I mean, this was part of the conversation. Like, the track was signed off by Masi on a track walk on Thursday morning, which is the day before the drivers were
Yeah,
out.
let's not
Practice.
get into that because I'm just
That
going
is
to rant
ridiculous.
about the safety. Like,
I can't believe it. They gave the green light. So the green light meant to come 4 months ago, or 30 days ago. Yeah, 4 months ago. Came the day before the cars were out on track.
Yep.
They were still delaying F2 races, F2 qualifying, F2
Yeah.
practice, all of that stuff, due to the fact that buildings, like, there were leaks in paddocks, stuff like this. So it's not a good look. And the worst part is, the next race is the second one on the calendar. It's directly after Bahrain, which means it's going to be around mid-March time, mid to the end of March.
Oh no.
And this is I was going to mention this later, but we'll mention this now. If 400 of the marshals came over from Bahrain to help out with this race, and, you know, they have however many months or whatever, does this mean now they're going to be able to find enough volunteers from Saudi to help out with this race? Or are they going to have to somehow manage to fly over the marshals from Bahrain straight over to Jeddah within a week? Because they're back-to-back races, which means the marshals will have to go from the race on Sunday, you know, they go to bed or whatever, finish, and then it's Monday morning. Will those volunteers then have to fly over to make it for Friday
I guess
practice
there is the argument
in
that like
Jeddah?
they've done a race before, so. But I don't think Saudi is such a harsh track to have marshals who've never marshalled before on.
True. So would you say they need?
I
Like,
think for
could
that,
you see them flying over like all 400 again
yeah,
straight after
to be
for
honest,
back-to-back
yeah,
races?
To be honest,
That probably would be easier than getting
Yeah.
more volunteers.
to be honest, there are very few tracks that you look at on the calendar that you're like, okay, that track needs like specific marshals who know what they're doing. Saudi is definitely one of them where you're like, you can't have like guys who don't know what they're doing because they just get hit by a car.
True. Yeah, and we don't want to see that happening to anyone because
I still
It's
think
bad.
they should introduce a system of green, red, jump on the track. A car is too close, get off the track.
traffic lights are jumping on.
Yes.
That's an idea. To be fair, they could use the. Actually, no, those panels are for the drivers. There could be something else. I'm sure they communicate with radio and stuff between
but-
marshals, but there's definitely work that could be done there. And I would like the FIA to be more transparent with what they're doing in that sense.
I think the idea that he signed on a Thursday is just like absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
The fact that the track, they had not inspected the track, they had not made sure the track was fit enough for racing, and they're not even having just F1 on they had F1 and F2 this week.
Yeah.
F1 and F2, and you've not actually looked at the track. Okay,
Oh,
move on because
Okay,
before
right.
I got like brilliant.
Let's get into the weekend itself. So we'll start off with qualifying. Actually, no, we won't even start off with qualifying. We'll start off with practice, because in FP3, the morning of qualifying, we had Lewis Hamilton investigated for yellow flags
Yeah, I don't
and
realize.
holding up Mazepin. Now it's nothing significant, but it's definitely worth mentioning. The yellows, they said, were turned on accidentally. He was midway through the
I think no, he wasn't.
marshal
past,
sector.
Wasn't he past it?
So he was midway through the marshal sector at this
Okay.
point, which is what they said to, let him off. And they were shown for under a second. This is why he got away with it. I'm seeing a lot of people saying,
I don't think he
it's
saw it. That's the thing. I
inconsistent,
don't
blah,
think
blah,
he saw the.
I don't think he saw it either, because it was only on the panel. It wasn't on his steering wheel or the rest of it. There were
Yeah.
no physical flags waved either, and it was shown on the panel for under a second. So that's why he got let off for that. The Mazepin in practice thing, he got a reprimand for. One more reprimand, and he faces a penalty, because he's on 2, and you need 3 for a penalty. That one was fair. If you got a penalty for that, I'd feel like it was a bit harsh, but it's understandable. But they let him off because, blind corners and all of this, miscommunication.
See, it's very hard at these tracks, like maybe Zandvoort as well, like qualifying practice, all this stuff. It's very hard because, like, when you watch onboards and stuff, they're going and they're like 5 cars, like slowing down to start their laps.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really
That should not be allowed. Like, the last few corners, you should be told you're not, like, they're like, oh, you can't slow down in this corner. People will slow down, like, they pass that 2 corners and then they slow down.
You're exactly right. So the rule they introduced, they said, for qualifying was you're not allowed to slow down between turn like 20 something and like 25 or 6. The last corner's 27, which means they didn't slow down through that section and then they just slowed down before 27, which was,
What's the point?
it was basically just as bad, because then you'd see someone fast going through.
Everyone around that part was just slowing down very, very slowly.
They were all part. It was awful. It was.
That's
It
what I'm
wasn't
saying, like, you have to say, like, if Charlie was there, you would not get these many, like, incident. Like usually you get maybe one big incident over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
But it was not as many as like this.
No, yeah. By one big incident, you mean like the Leclerc crash or the Mick crash or something? Or
Yeah, like it's not even like a big like a big incident. It's like a normal kind of stuff.
yeah.
Someone crashed. Someone got penalized. That's it. Moving
But
on.
the shots are insane. Like of I don't know,
I actually
Lewis
think
on
the
his poly
stewarding was a
lap,
bit more
everyone-
consistent then than now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I feel like F1's
Now
going in a
the
weird
idea, because
direction.
Liberty Media are focusing on like let them race because they want the show, so they're putting first of all like safety like of the driver, like the fact that he signed off on the track on Thursday, insane. They're putting off as well, like if a driver knows to push a driver out, imagine if he pushed him out like in Saudi.
Yeah, if you're forcing someone.
If you're forcing
Like-
someone out at like 300 kilometers an hour down like a track like this, I'm not. This is why I think safety should be improved, because it looked like they're just gonna hit a concrete wall.
Yeah, in certain places, I know obviously they had a good amount of tyre barriers.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff
like a
that,
lot of other
22,
places they didn't.
But yeah, and we learned obviously due to the accident with Grosjean last year.
Yeah.
You've got to be wary of all places of the track. You can't just put it in certain
Yeah,
places.
so I think like Liberty Media's focus now is on a good show. Fair enough, like Drive Survive and all of this stuff. But no, like to be fair, a lot of people have gotten into
yeah,
F1
it's-
because of that. But I think they're actually like risking the racing, because they're putting let's let them race, and then when they let them race, drivers are getting more and more outside. Like I understand, like you're gonna push the limit a bit, but what we're seeing now is just insane.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, seeing as we've got a lot to get through, we'll move on to not even the race yet. So, I mean, almost just like the race. I think we completed 20 laps in an hour and a half or something. We're 20 minutes in, and we haven't gone to qualifying yet. So quickly, I'm just going to mention, what did you think of Max's lap? Obviously, he was
Max's lap was insane.
like
That's
3
the thing.
tenths up or something going into
He
the last
he
corner.
lost. He was 1 tenth up and then 2 tenths up in each sector.
Yeah.
And then going into the last corner, that's the thing. He lost the back a bit, but then I thought if he pressed on the accelerator, and that's the reason he really lost it and he went into the barrier. If he'd slowed down, he'd have caught it.
Yeah.
And I think even with that, I don't think he would have lost 3 tenths. I think he'd have lost 1/10 and a half.
You think with the lockup purely based on that?
I
So
think
describe what
he
happened
said-
in the last corner.
So he went in, he lost the back end of it, and then he's very adamant that he wants to finish the lap, and then so what he does is he's kind of skidding a bit, and instead of kind of trying to save it and then going on this accelerator, and what he does is he goes on the accelerator, and what happens is you get a lot of kind of wheel spin and the back tires. What happens is the back end just fully goes, and you can see it just goes and he smacks straight into the barrier. Why are you doing this? Because he risked the gearbox kind of. If he got a gearbox he would have lost the championship.
Yeah, not mathematically, but essentially it would have been
lost the
over
championship,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great lap. People saying it was
It
could
was
have been
incredible.
one of the best. Sure,
I think
I'll agree with that.
It reminds me of Lewis in Singapore
2018.
because
Yeah.
he did not have a car suited to this racetrack. Lewis did not
Yeah.
have a car suited to that racetrack, and they pulled something out of nowhere. And this is why I think people are talking about Max this year. I actually think he deserved the championship over Lewis, purely because this year, in terms of those big drives,
Yeah.
say Singapore for Lewis, or these big drives where you see the drivers they're driving incredibly. I think Max has had pretty much all of those this year, or except for maybe 1 or 2 where Lewis I think Bahrain Lewis did incredibly, they defend from him and stuff, and then when he overtook on the outside. It's incredible driving. But I think that was incredible driving, that was incredible overtaking pressure and all of that. And then there wasn't any
Yeah.
bending of a lot of rules and all of that, So not bending rules, breaking rules, let's be serious.
So I don't know. It was a good lap. I'd understand putting it up there. Obviously, he didn't finish it, so you can't say it was one of the best laps.
That's the only thing. Yeah.
And he did get a bit impatient, but it's understandable. I guess it is one of the only times he's made a major mistake, you'd say, this year.
I think
Other than
that
he's
comes
been
with
very
experience,
good.
bro.
True, because obviously when we compare this to Singapore 2018 Lewis was still that's like his 11th year in F1.
Yeah, but he
And
was
this is
also
Max's
at that
like
point he
7th
was
or
like
something. He was also like a
4-time world champion at that point.
so this is before he won in 18, so he would have won 17, 15, 14, and yeah, that's 4, yeah.
4-time. So he's a 4-time world champion. So like at that point there was still the argument he's one of the best of all time. So
yeah,
you're putting him in that bracket with just Sebastian, Fangio, Prost,
yeah.
and
So he's
Michael.
equal on championships with Prost at this point, and Max is
So
he's almost equalled that essentially.
yeah, but I think Max is now like you can see a bit of like inexperience going into these two races. Has the pressure got to him? Is that because there is a fair argument for like the pressure got to Lewis in his first year,
Yeah, it
where he
definitely
beached
got,
it in China and just like, what are you doing?
Oh, that was. Yeah,
What are
that was-
you
that was-
doing?
That was really
So I think the pressure got to him, but I think there's no shame in saying that because like I think like even Lewis the pressure got to him and he just like he was he should have won that 2007 championship if
yeah.
not for inexperience and the inability to not just deal with the pressure of driving an F1 car or driving an F1 car with the ability to win. It's that kind of pressure of I think with Max is a bit different because Max has been winning. Max was gonna win the championship and then out of nowhere Lewis comes out of nowhere. He wins Brazil, wins the other one, wins and now he's on to the last one. Like if he wins, realistically going into the last one he can win the championship.
Yeah.
And so now it's like
It's tough, yeah. There's definitely pressure on him now, but
mentally
would
as well
say-
is very difficult.
yeah, I'd say there's a lot of pressure on him. He does very well to hide it, but he's definitely thinking about it. And I guess his inability to adapt to the situation is probably something that's not helping him. Because he loves, Max, as we all know, is either 0% or 100%. And like
I
all
think
the time it's 100%.
he's given 100% the whole year.
So
and you can see that, yeah.
sometimes you need to, Lewis said in an interview afterwards with the incident, we'll get onto it in a bit, you know, the thing he doesn't mind doing is, you know, avoiding the incident purely because he knows that he's saving his car and he lives to fight another day or whatever it is.
See, that's one thing that I think Max hasn't yet learned. I don't think it's in his being to learn, but I think you have to learn it. Like you're fighting for a championship over the course of 22 races this year. If he'd avoided Silverstone, if he'd avoided, he could
Monza.
Monza. Like to be fair, he wouldn't have gained much. But
Oh yeah, he would have lost out
if he'd
Monza.
avoided Silverstone, he's plus 25 points right now.
And well, it would have been 8. Well, the
Yeah,
gap between
25.
first and second. Or are you
Yeah.
saying Lewis?
No, he would have come second. He was 33 points ahead. Max was 33
right,
points.
okay,
Lewis
yeah,
got
no, I see
25
what
points
yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
say with all of that, he only gets to keep those 25 points. He would have won the championship just if he had come second at that race. Because he lost because by DNFing he lost 25 points and Lewis got I think fastest lap or Perez got fastest lap. I think Perez got fastest lap and took it from Lewis, but that's 25 points was just wiped out. And then Hungary is not really his fault.
No, yeah, you can't.
And then Baku not his fault. Monza didn't really get much from it to be honest.
Yeah, Monza, as much as it was his fault, Lewis had the
yeah.
faster car, so
Exactly.
he
So
almost gained from that.
yeah, exactly. So I'd say Silverstone. If maybe Lewis was predominantly in the wrong.
He was.
But if he'd lifted off, let Lewis pass, came in second, you've lost a few points, but you've won the championship over the course of the season because you still maintained a 20. That's
Yeah.
that was a Lewis like a Mercedes track, but after that it was Red Bull pretty much. So you would have extended the gap just by coming in second. You're comfortably gonna come in.
Or
second.
even if he didn't come in second, like you can leave the fight going, just give him a bit of room, and I'm sure they wouldn't have penalised him if he goes a bit wide on the exit of that corner because that corner's flat anyway, running into this like the Magus Beckett section.
But I think
like,
that's one
basically
thing he
he's-
still needs to
Yeah, and I think as much as he doesn't want to admit that he needs to learn it, he did last time. Like last time this happened, or not last time this happened, but last time he was involved in a lot of incidents for his aggressive driving. It was the start of the, I want to say 18 season. Or it was either 18 or 17. He was in like 7 incidents in a row right at the start of the season.
Mm.
And every single one of them was his fault purely because he's too aggressive. I remember one in particular. He dived up in China. The last corner is like literally 180 degrees. It is, yeah, literally 180 degrees. Like second to last corner in China. He dives up the inside of Vettel, coming out of nowhere, taps him. They both spin around, and that was, that's just textbook, like him being a bit too aggressive, like trying a bit too hard. But after that point, he had a very good year.
But do you think it comes from the way his dad treated him?
Oh, you can't say that. You can't say that.
No, but like if your dad leaves you in a gas station,
You can't say that. You can't.
No, if your dad leaves you in a gas station in a different country, obviously that's because you lost the championship in that karting, is gonna breed that type of desire to win or to win at all costs.
Let's just say I sympathise with his character. Like before, I was very harsh on his character, and
I was before I knew about that, yeah.
But after I don't know, delving into the character of Jos Verstappen a lot more, I definitely sympathise with Max a lot more, and I
think that's where he got, because like if your dad if you don't win, you get left in a different country in a gas station. You're gonna have to win at any point, you're gonna do anything to win, include drive very aggressively. I think he's developed that style, and then going into Formula One, he's just kind of kept going with it.
Yeah.
But he since then, I think he's tempered out a bit. Like this year compared to last year, he's way better in terms of like.
True. Yeah.
He's not as like dangerous. He's much cleaner this year than last year. There have been a few.
And in general, I guess he's a lot more cleaner than before. He's slowly getting there, realistically.
That's what I'm saying. Like it was the same probably like say Sebastian. Maybe not like he hit people, but he wasn't exactly the cleanest driver. But with time you kind of learn this. But I actually like his attitude of like that desire and hunger to win. Like this is why
you can always admire.
Yeah, this is why I don't like Sebastian post like after he won the 4. Like he lost to Daniel.
So post 2013.
Yeah, after he lost to Daniel, went to Ferrari, and then my issue with Sebastian at Ferrari is he didn't have that desire, that hunger, that like. At Red Bull, he'd do anything to win. Ferrari, he was just like...
So do you think if Ferrari Sebastian was spun around in turn 4 in Brazil in 2012, he wouldn't have made it back up the field and won the championship? You're saying like there was no...
No. He didn't have that same kind of fight in him that he had before. I think that's why I don't want Max to become too soft. Because then...
Yeah, it's understandable why people love him for the aggression.
Because that's
it's entertaining.
It's entertaining, but at the same time, like if he becomes too soft, to become like Sebastian, where he's gonna mount a challenge halfway through the season, just drop off.
Yeah. Well, so now we can actually get onto the race. We'll get onto the thing we mentioned earlier. So, race starts. Lewis and Bottas actually managed to organise it properly this time, so they get through first and second. Max,
it's an easy one because the track is so tight.
It was a lot easier this time, yeah. The run down to turn 1 was a lot shorter, so Bottas didn't have enough time to mess it up. But so we get through there.
You say that, but Lewis messed it up on the second start. Okay?
Listen, we won't talk too much about this. We'll get onto it in a bit. But so they're going through. Max is actually surprisingly keeping up quite well with them. I think the gap between Lewis and Bottas was just over 2 seconds. Gap between Bottas and Max was only like a second and a half. And, well, 10 laps in, we're thinking this is going to be, usual stuff. We're gonna get a decent amount.
I thought Lewis would in 10 laps gap on them by a bit. I think he was slowing down to keep Bottas quite close so he can use DRS.
Maybe, but then Bottas asked for a bit of an extra gap, so for the dirty air and stuff. But I think he was definitely doing a lot of tyre saving. I'm not sure why, but we didn't really.
I thought he gapped them by 10 seconds.
I thought he would have. Yeah, I thought he would have tried to blitz off. It was definitely a Sebastian thing to pull out a 20-second gap in 10 laps, so you can have a spare pit stop for no reason because there wasn't even the fastest lap back then. So 10 laps in, Mick crashes at turn 22.
See that desire of just to be so far ahead. They tell him slow down, save tires, and you just go around setting fastest lap by fastest lap.
That's the one. While we're on the topic, another thing. This is the YouTube link I'll leave in the description this time, in the YouTube video, is I'll try find a particular incident where it's 2 laps from the end, and for no particular reason other than stat padding, Vettel decides on his worn tyres he's going to go for the fastest lap of the race and ruin his car for absolutely no reason, risk everything, risk the win, purely because he wants fastest lap. And his race engineer's like, Lewis, Vettel, don't do it. Sebastian, don't do it. You don't need to. You have no reason to do this. Just save your tyres. And then he goes off and does like 3 fastest laps. Like, no reason at all. No point. There's no point.
But that's the thing, watching that and listening to the radio, just be insane. Like, you'd actually enjoy that so much.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll leave a link. I'll try to find a particular example, but he did it for like
but that's
2 years.
Max actually reminds me a bit of Sebastian in terms of like he was hated so much by the fans, and Maxine is hated by not all the fans. Not like Sebastian, I guess he's not that bad, but he gets a lot of hate.
Yeah.
But he gets a lot of hate because he's really good.
Yeah, you've got to respect him realistically, and there'll be another one where after he retires, you know, everyone.
But I don't see
"Wow, he
anyone
was
in
so
this
good."
generation having that same kind of getting that same hate like Max is getting.
Part of his generation, no, because Leclerc's loved,
Everyone else
George is
basically.
loved, Lando's loved so much, and all the rest of them.
It'd be interesting next season when they're all fighting for the podiums.
So, Mick crashes. We're on like lap 10 at this point. Mick's crashed, brings out the safety car initially. Then
Why is there a safety car for 4 laps? bro?
When do you know? Mercedes both pit. Then after Mercedes pit, they're behind Max, and then the red flag comes out, so Max is now able to switch on his tyres or change his tyres. Why? Is that so? Lando complains about this rule afterwards because a lot of the midfield drivers lost out due to
Yeah,
this.
this is what I was
What
going
do
to
you
say.
think of the rule?
First of all, why is there the reason people pitted is there was a safety car for like 4 laps.
Yeah.
Why is there if you're gonna red flag straight away or keep a safety car until they fix stuff and you stay on circuit. Like that's the way I look at it. In terms of Lewis complaining on the radio, he's like, "Oh, is Max gonna get a free pit stop? He's ahead of us." Boy, you would have been out at Imola if you didn't get a free pit stop.
Very true.
So Lewis, I don't see Lewis ever complaining about this because he benefited from it like a lot of times. Not a lot of times, but he benefited, like, he saved his season this year, to be fair.
I mean, so I think he's not, even with the luck.
But
I heard someone like they got it confused. Lando complained about the rule itself.
Yes,
Lewis complained about the fact it was a red flag.
exactly.
It's different, but either way, Lewis shouldn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have.
I get why he's complaining
he's
about it
frustrated
after
and
4
stuff.
laps. Why is it? Why you get giving a red flag after 4 laps? That's why I don't get.
Yeah.
In terms of the rule, I'm not like that's the thing. I'm like it ruins I guess it introduces a bit more kind of interesting kind of stuff happening at the front, but then it screws with everyone in the midfield really.
It does. The thing is.
But
with
then
the rule is,
Ocon
like,
was leading the race, so you can't say anything about that.
it screws with people in a sense that I was going to mention this later. Like, it's like an FIA decision almost, where if the FIA make a decision like that just purely to bring out the red flag, it's gonna benefit some people and it's gonna not benefit
So it's gonna
other
be
people.
good this time, bad this time.
Yeah, which as much as you want to complain about it when it's bad for you, next time it will be good for you. Like, it doesn't affect anyone. It doesn't really.
Lando's the
matter,
only
so,
only person where it's always bad for him.
it's unfortunate for him, but like realistically, it's just one of them things. It's the same with like, as much as I'm a Lewis fan and I'd love to complain that they brought it out and after the safety car and all of this, I understand it. Turn 22, that's where Leclerc crashed in. I think it was.
But when
practice.
Leclerc crashed in, they gave us a red flag straight away.
That's true, and it is inconsistent. So I would say this is the first of the minor inconsistencies with the stewards this weekend.
Bro,
But
the
in
whole
general,
season,
also
bro.
F2, there was a crash there at that corner.
Red flag straight away.
Even before the track was shown, everyone saw turn 22 as one of the danger points. So if you want to fix the barriers there, cool. You can argue it was a bit weird that they didn't set the red flag out instantly. But in general, the rule, I don't mind it. Like, it's just there. Like, it's never been a problem otherwise. So I don't.
But they
want
have
people
to.
complain.
Yeah,
now.
but that's the thing. They have to if you're gonna red flag straight away.
For safety, in a safety point of view, yeah, they probably should have just red flagged.
I don't see why give 4 laps and then be like, oh yeah, you were gonna red flag. What are you talking about?
Well, speaking of the complaints people had for the what's it called, for the FIA and Masi and all of this red flag now. Before the restart, so we're not even at this point yet. I just wanted to ask you, are the FIA making it hard to trust them? So with all the stuff
Yes.
we've said about So with all the stuff we've said about the decisions, how it helps some people, doesn't help other people, with the track and how it was green lit on Thursday, that's dangerous, clearly to do with politics and all of this.
It's also to do with like the championship. They wanted to go down to the wire. You know, like if you look
Yeah.
at races, it does look like they are favoring some people over some people.
True, it
Are
wouldn't
they
be.
are they doing that for the show?
See, that's the thing.
You
It
can't
sounds
say
like
no.
it sounds like a conspiracy theorist kind of thing. But when you see the kind of stuff, when you look at the facts that they're getting weird, like we'll talk about the comparison to the Baku incident and all of this later. But when you see that kind of stuff, it doesn't become that much of a reach to say they're doing it for the sake of the show.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you look at like Lewis got some things here, Max got some things in this race. But when you go back and look, there are some things where like say for instance, Max got the benefit where he pushed Lewis out, didn't get a penalty because they don't want it to end on a penalty. They want Lewis to overtake him. Same things where Lewis kind of was let off, just like stuff like that where where Lewis hit the barrier in Imola. I still don't remember why there was a red flag to it there, to be honest.
Oh right, when he hit the. I think there was a reason. I can't remember why, but I remember.
I
some
remember
sort of
being
reason
like
to do
confused
with
at the time because they could just do a safety car.
it. I can't lie. I was just screaming because he
Yeah.
tried to overtake a back marker and then ended up in the gravel.
Yeah, but like so you see these things across the year where you're like, is it? It's not consistent, is it? Are they just doing this because they want to like favor this guy this time, favor this time, balance it out? I think it balances out over the course of the season, but that doesn't mean what you're doing is right.
Yeah, definitely. Like they definitely punish the consequences.
Exactly.
They're not meant to.
You either did something right or you did something wrong. Like, to be honest, with the one in Silverstone, you can argue Lewis deserved a harsher penalty. Like the fact that he got only 10 seconds, not 20 seconds, not like say, I don't think he should have gotten a stop-go penalty, but I think like 20 seconds could have been like, for the crash and everything that happened, 20 seconds. There is an argument of like, they're not supposed to take into account the actual crash, just the incident. But then like Lando, when he pushed Perez off in Austria.
Austria, yeah.
But that's the thing. It was his corner, it was everything, and Perez came out of nowhere. He got points on his license, got 5-second penalty, and then Max pushed Lewis out, got nothing.
Yeah, they are really debating.
It's the same thing. It's because he pushed him into the gravel. Yeah. But then you're not supposed to take that into account. You're not supposed to take the consequences into account. I think they apply the rules more consistently after Max and Lewis. In terms of a few people pushed people off there and they got 5-second penalties, everyone. I remember that race. Like Perez got like 10, I think, because he pushed like 2 people off. So they were consistent with you. But when it comes to Lewis and Max, I think that's where you actually look and you're like, it's inconsistent. Like
yeah, it's almost
While we're talking about it, about the FIA, Lewis's end plate was like knocked off, and this happened to Leclerc a few years back. I don't remember when. Like he was a Ferrari, his end plate basically got hit off, and he was given. They didn't stop, so they let him continue. Like they let Lewis continue.
Yeah.
And then he got a stop-go penalty.
For his front wing end plate.
Yeah. So it was off. It was off. You can search it up. Someone showed it to me. It was a few years back. I don't remember where it was.
At Ferrari, you said.
It was at Ferrari. Yeah, I can send you the video. But he ends up like, imagine like that. That's how inconsistent it is, though.
Right. Well, we've come back. We've reviewed the footage. We got given the onboards. We looked at the telemetry, and we've come to the decision. Well, I mean, we didn't really come to
The
a
stewards are
decision.
incredibly inconsistent.
I mean, to be fair, when you look at the incident we're talking about, Japan 2019. I'll try to get a video up. He got 10 seconds. I don't know how you remember this, but he got 10 seconds.
Someone sent me it.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. I thought this just came from your memory.
Oh, no.
The end plate comes off Leclerc's Ferrari. It goes flying actually into Lewis's face, was one of the clips we saw. And he got a penalty for that.
10 seconds stop go.
I'd say it was just lucky. Lewis
didn't get anything. That's why I'm just
because I'm saying Lewis is lucky. Not as much came off his wing because only a little bit fell off, and that was it.
It's the end plate. I find it to be. See, this is the annoying part. It's like if you're not Max or Lewis, I think they get preferential treatment over everyone else. Like I'm not gonna talk about like who gets preferential treatment between both of them. I think both of them get preferential treatment at some point. But between them and everyone else, they get definitely preferential treatment over everyone
Yeah,
else.
and that's what. So the point
No
initially
question
we
about
started with this is are the FIA hard to trust? Because any decision will benefit Max and then not help Lewis, and then another decision will help Lewis and then not help Max. But if the FIA are being weird with the rules and stuff, and we're finding it hard to trust them, then it's very easy to say, oh, they did this to help Max, or they did this to help Lewis. When in reality, some decisions will just help them anyway. So
yeah, I think they
tough.
do some things to help like drivers. I think it's not like a conspiracy theory. I think it's like it actually happens.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe
consider
not before because it wasn't as much about like the show as now. It's about the show.
Well, money talks.
Netflix is gonna have like, you may have to say for this season they're gonna have a lot of like
Bro,
10 episodes. It's gonna be so hard to
tell
produce
me.
a 10
Listen,
episodes.
watch them make 4 episodes about Giovinazzi and his incredible driving this year.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they're gonna miss the point completely.
that's the thing. Like, if they like there've been so many incidents. If they miss all of this out and like, or they ignore Silverstone or like Monza or something like this, I'm just gonna freak out because
They will, bro. They will.
Monza they'll be like covering Ferrari, like I remember last year, they covered like Sergio Perez and his win, which was great,
Yeah.
and they not mention George Russell at like.
Yeah, I can't believe that. Yeah, we're
Bro,
watching the story of George Russell on.
the guy jumped into a Mercedes from Williams, drove, and basically he
He
deserved.
wiped to the floor with Bottas.
Bro,
Deserved the
he
win.
destroyed him, bro. And like he destroyed. No one was even close to him. Like to be fair, Bottas was the only person who could be close to him.
Yeah.
And then he smoked it. Like he overtook him in that quick part of the section. Beautiful overtake. They don't even mention it.
Yeah, there's the jeopardy of the what was it? The incidents, the puncture, all the rest of it, and then nothing. Yeah, I'm not looking. Well, I am sort of looking forward to Drive Test 5, but I don't have my hopes up. But we'll
I
go
think
into that.
they're
We'll
just
actually,
gonna ruin it.
you know what I'm thinking of doing? We'll do as the winter break series that we're gonna have coming up. We do a review episode on that because it should come out like maybe the week before F1 starts. We're gonna watch it and then do a review episode on it, which will be
Roast them about everything they've missed, basically.
cool. Well, back to Saudi Arabia, seeing as we are still here, and annoyingly seeing as we've cut the footage in that, we don't even know how long we've been going on for. Probably like 50 minutes in now. So the first restart. Actually, not even before the first restart. Michael Masi's getting on the radio. Oh no, he's
Giving
not. No, he's not.
offers.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, is he giving them off? No, he's
No,
not.
that's
This
after
point.
the
No,
first
this is
restart.
after. Okay, so yeah, sorry. First restart. The Max is now ahead of Lewis, and he's ahead of Bottas, seeing as the Mercedes are pitted. Get the restart. Lewis destroys Max at the line. I'm gonna soak this in while I can because the next one wasn't as good.
But then
He dives up the inside.
Lewis, like, yeah, you have to say, like, he did not leave 10 cars between him and Max.
On the way to
That's-
the grid before the yeah no he
That,
definitely didn't.
I'm surprised he wasn't penalised for that. Because
So
I
here's
thought that was an obvious penalty.
So here's the weird thing. They're saying because it was on the way to the grid from a red flag, it technically wasn't a formation lap, so technically he didn't have to do that. Which, if it's true, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Bro,
It's ridiculous. If that's a technicality, that's disgusting.
Bro, do you hear what you're saying?
I am,
It is-
and I'm
it
just
is a
repeating what I've
formation.
heard. But it's stupid, honestly.
When you hear this nonsense, because that's the thing, if they give Lewis a 5-second penalty at that point, the race is over and Max is like
I
comfortably
don't
gonna
think
win.
they've ever given a penalty for that kind of stuff, though.
No, but like
they have.
he
but
should get a penalty for that though.
he should, but they don't really like the touching of the car and stuff and all of this. Like Vettel used to do it back in the day. They don't really. It's one of the things that they almost don't penalise. There were a lot more complaints. So actually, I've got notes
but
down.
this for me,
Max
this
is
is where it starts going downhill, like with the
Yeah.
stewards. It's because
Yeah.
they had time to fix, like they had time to at least review it and say, no, oh no, we're not gonna give him anything. They didn't do
They
anything.
didn't even note it. Yeah, that was weird.
Bro,
So-
it's like the same thing that annoyed me about Brazil is like they didn't even note it. They were like, nah, we don't need to invest it.
There was
What do you mean?
There's the Max's practice start in the pit lane. Fair enough. He stayed within the what's it called, within the speed limit, but I believe technically that's not allowed. We'll have to look into the rules of that because I have no idea. There's no clarification. Everyone's basically forgotten that happened. Lewis plus 10 car lengths. I mean, they're saying it's technically not a formation lap. If that's true, that's ridiculous. It is a formation lap. But even then, he did the same thing in Brazil and they didn't even look into it. I'm sure other drivers have done it before, even in the middle of the grid, not when you're at the front or the back. I think people have done it before and they don't really chase it up that much. Bottas, this was the big one. Bottas going too slow. To
Oh,
help
that's
them with
under the
double
safety,
stack.
so they can double stack, yeah.
Yeah, so just before this red flag we're talking about now, Bottas going slowly.
It's funny
to
that
Ocon.
they actually paid for that very harshly because
Yeah, they. Funnily enough, they got punished for that anyway. But that one, I'm surprised.
I think
even in
he
commentary,
deserved a
Martin was
penalty.
surprised.
He deserved a penalty for that. So
That was definitely punishable.
see, this is kind of where it's getting kind of a bit exciting, where you're seeing the teams pull out everything to win.
Actually, on this topic, I've got something interesting I forgot to mention last week. So, if you've seen the pit boxes, when drivers come into the pit lane, especially the teams in the middle, on either side in the pit boxes, the crew will come out, or at least someone from the crew of either team will come out, and they'll get rid of those long cabled hose things that run the hydraulics for the wheel guns. So they'll pull the cables out the way and allow the car to come through so they get a better angle into their pit box. And they'll do this on the entry and on the exit, seeing as the spot's kind of tight. Ever since Qatar, I believe, I don't know which team started this, but Red Bull and Mercedes have started putting people in the corners of their boxes. So this rule that they're pulling the hose thing, it's a gentleman's agreement, and they just do it for the sake of safety, fairness, all of this, but it's not a rule. Ever since Qatar, they're sat on the corners to make the angle as harsh as possible to slow down the car as it goes into their pit box. So Mercedes being first, they get a great angle coming in, but on their way out they need to go past the Red Bull hoses, and Red Bull aren't pulling the cords anymore. And then same with Red Bull, they're between whoever's third, it's Mercedes and whoever's on the other side, McLaren probably. Mercedes won't pull their hose on the way in, which means that
They get very harsh.
they have an awkward entry in, loses them probably like a very small amount of time, but still is significant. And then probably on the other side, McLaren would still pull their things out the way. But it's just another one of the things where they're being all really petty and trying to gain every single thing they can.
The problem is, even with this, Max is still quicker usually in his pit stops than Lewis. Purely not even for the pit stop, because Max brakes later than Lewis. Lewis generally, yeah, like they compared it in a few races, and generally Max is quicker.
There's a new AWS graphic about this as well, isn't there?
Lewis is usually, and I'm talking most races, he's slower than Max. Because usually
marginally, but I believe
he
so,
he stops earlier than Max as well.
So we're going to move on to the first restart. So Lewis gets a great launch. It's a brilliant start, obviously because of his antics with the slowing down and Max's fresh tyres. He's on warmer tyres. He gets an incredible launch, gets ahead of him, and then Max does exactly what he did last time. Brakes way too late in a desperate attempt to keep the position, cuts across the corner, then on the rejoin does what Vettel did in 2019. He tries to block Lewis's path to make sure he can't overtake him, and then goes on his way. I think on the onboard you can see he wasn't trying to turn either.
And Ocon basically goes into second because of that.
It was a very good move from Ocon. He snuck his way into second place because he ended up ahead of Lewis at that point. Further back, Leclerc gets squeezed by Perez. Not his fault at all. Perez just didn't really see him. So they crash.
And then Mazepin just smacks straight into the
Mazepin steams into the back of Russell. And that's what causes the next red flag, which under this one is where we heard the next bit of Masi madness. The negotiations with Red Bull. What did you think?
What is he doing? What is he doing, bro? So I'm not standing in the market buying something. Is it okay if you go back? No, what are you talking about, bro? What are you...
So,
See, this is where I think Michael Masi needs to go, bro. We need some new guy who knows what he's talking about, bro.
It's fair. So I think it's unfair on him because I don't think he meant the word offer in the way it sounded.
Yeah, but he's literally offering them give
it was
up
a
the
weird
position,
conversation.
bro.
It was funny the way he's like, we can put you guys in second place, and then Red Bull are like, we'll just have a little discussion about this. Yeah, we'd love that as long as we're ahead of Lewis. No, of course you wouldn't be ahead of Lewis. Would you read this? It was weird, but I feel like. So the point of this was, as they did later, seeing as Max needed to be penalised, he was basically saying, give the position back or we're going to give you a penalty, which is fair. And seeing as the red flag stopped the ability for him to give the place back in racing, he had to give it back on the grid. So that's understandable.
I'm surprised he didn't, in the way up, he stayed quite close to Lewis. I thought he would have left, 20 cars between him and Lewis to let Lewis's tyre cool down, basically.
That was interesting. And also, seeing as they didn't complete a full lap, I heard there's an argument that they should have left Ocon third and just swapped Lewis and Max because they didn't complete a full lap. They should have based it on the grid initially as it happened, and then applied the penalties from there. So Ocon starting on pole possibly shouldn't have happened, but I mean, they did forget he existed for a moment.
So.
But we won't blame them for that, it's fair enough. So there's that. Now on to the second. Do you want to run us through the second restart?
What?
This was the good one. Well, at least
yeah, I
your
don't remember.
perspective.
I don't
Max down the inside.
Oh, see, this is, you know how you talk about Lewis having bad, like, Valtteri screwing up the restarts usually, or like starts in general and letting Max through.
Yeah.
What was Lewis doing? Lewis had the inside line, he just had to close the door on the inside. Max was going nowhere, and Lewis cuts across. Ocon was already like closed, like, because that's the thing, it's a bit wide, but it closes off fairly quickly. So if Max somehow tries to squeeze on the outside, he's not going there because Ocon's there. If you go here, Ocon's here. Max is going nowhere because you blocked it. Lewis goes over and like squeezes close and just gives Max the whole inside. Like, what are you doing, bro? It's like a guy who's just like learning to drive. Now he's 7-time world champion. Honestly, like
he was focused too much on Ocon. He shouldn't have.
He just went like full Valtteri mode. Like honestly, just went for like I don't know. It was a beautiful move from Max. Like, you have to give it to him.
Yeah. It was
What
only
the
he
hell
would
was-
have gone for that.
What the hell was Lewis doing?
He was on the clean side of the grid, managed to get all the way across onto the inside, and then dive up the inside of both of them.
I still don't get what Lewis was doing.
Yeah,
Explain to me what he was doing.
I don't even know. Like, he shouldn't have been focusing that much on Ocon, and you definitely don't give Max the inside line. He could have easily given him the middle of the track, the outside.
Exactly. If he gives him in the middle of the track, realistically, he can squeeze him a bit.
Between
like,
Ocon
block
as
him
well.
a bit. Yeah, he can block him a bit. But he gives him the whole inside line, and he can't defend against that. And then Lewis hits Ocon because Lewis basically doesn't know what he's doing and gives Max the inside line. So I think that was all Lewis's fault essentially. And great driving from Max.
On his fresh mediums at this point, he'd switched to his medium tyres.
It was obvious why he was doing that. I thought he'd get a bigger advantage. I thought he'd be able to gap Lewis, but Lewis stayed within a second on the hard tires.
Yeah,
Very surprising.
it was good pace from him, and I was thinking because of all the virtual safety cars that would allow Max to extend his tyres.
He would have gotten it to the end. I think it's just the crash. There were slices on the tires that they noticed later on, and so they told him to go easy. That's why Lewis gapped him, is because Max wasn't. It wasn't because Max's tires were going. He had in it to race. They were scared that he'd get a puncture and they'd lose the race, so they're like, basically take it easy to the end of the race, lose time, it's okay, just bring the car home. If that incident hadn't happened, I think Lewis would have stayed in front of him. Max would have stayed in front of him, because he had the pace to keep him behind, and he had the tires. Essentially, the mediums go 30 laps in Saudi.
Was it 30 or 40?
30.
30. Okay, yeah.
30 laps. He had to do 36 on them.
Oh, that's easily possible.
But 36 without the VSCs, without the safety cars, without like starting and stopping and all that. So he could have easily gotten them to the end. And Lewis is not going to be on new tires at that point. Lewis is on old hards as well that are a bit older than his mediums as well. So it was very possible, very very possible even. I think it's the accident and the slashes he had on the tires. That's why Christian was saying that's why I told him to go slow.
And it is unlucky because he couldn't. Well, it is kind of lucky in the end actually, because if he did pit, that plus the penalties he got at the end of the race, then would have probably lost him a position. But because he didn't pit, he still managed to
that
keep
plus 10 seconds would have screwed him.
So, now we're getting onto this. So, Lewis gains on Max. We're on like lap whatever, like 30 something at this point. He attempts a pass round into turn 1. Obviously, Max weaves a bit on the straight, blocks the slipstream, which is allowed. He then defends the inside as expected.
No,
Lewis
but he doesn't weave too much this time. He just goes 1, 2, and...
He weaves a couple times, and Lewis is a fair distance behind him at this point, which means the weaving isn't, in his face and dangerous. It's a good distance. Lewis then tries to go around the outside. Max, once again, desperately brakes extremely late, not even trying to make the corner. Then loses it, because he gets a bit of oversteer mid-corner, sends himself off, cuts across the corner, and then drives off again. Lewis gets on the radio to complain about this, calling him dangerous and stuff. I feel like this is the moment Lewis kind of snapped, because you could hear him obviously, and after the race he did a couple interviews where he was a bit more. He had a couple more jabs at Max.
Yeah, he's one of the worst drivers I've ever driven.
Yeah, oh, did he say that?
He said he's one of the most, like, I've driven with a lot of people, one of the most dangerous ones or something.
He said the rules don't apply to him. He said he's dangerous. He said, like, things like that.
He compared him to one of the worst ones he's driven against, I remember.
I'm going to have to get this quote up. I might have to.
Yeah.
We'll see. But, yeah, he said all of this. Max is then advised to give the position back. So what do you think of do you want to run us through this? The big incident.
So I think just to kind of make a big point out of this, Max gave the position back quickly in Bahrain at the very beginning of the season, very first race. He gave it in a not so optimum position in the racetrack.
Yeah.
Ended up losing the race because he did not have, he gave it up in a bad position, and then Lewis was able to build enough of a gap to keep him behind him. So this time they were like, give the position strategically.
That is what was said on the
And the whole point was he wanted to give it to him going into the DRS detection zone. So if he gives it,
last corner.
Yeah, if he gives it into that, he gets the DRS, and then essentially he can lap Lewis. Now, before I actually cover, there are two things I want to clarify. Masi told Red Bull to give the position back. He never contacted Mercedes. So Mercedes at this point don't know that Max is giving the position back. The team doesn't know. Lewis doesn't know.
Not even Mercedes.
No one knows. No one knows. He's only contacted Red Bull. So that's the first thing to clarify. And then the second thing is, if Max is giving back the position, this is why I'm kind of confused, to be honest. If you give him back the position, and this is what Felipe Massa was saying after the race when he was with Will, he's saying if you're going to give back that position, you want to get the DRS wherever, go to the far right. Max did not go to the very far right. He says that if you're going to give back the position, you either go very far left or very far right. You make it extremely clear. You slow down and go to the very far right. Max slowed down, but Max was never at the very far right. He was quite centered. And then when Lewis got quite close, he moved across. You can see it like a steering wheel. He moves across, and then according to the FIA, he brakes a bit more at that point. You can see it in the graph a bit. He applies more brake pressure at that point. They crash into each other, and then Max kind of just gives up and he just gaps him, so Lewis doesn't get the DRS into that corner. Like, he builds enough of a gap. Lewis is like 1.8 or 2 seconds behind him at that point. I think it's kind of like Lewis didn't want to overtake him. Lewis could possibly have like gone like extremely to the inside and maybe overtaken him. But I think he was too scared because he's scared that Max would just cost him at the end. And perhaps break his front wing fully or whatever. So I think that's why he was too worried about going for it, because especially Max, if Max had, like, you see with that part of the track, it's narrow and it opens up. And
the barrier was coming like across.
Yeah, the barrier was coming across. You don't want to go into that part. So with everything, like, I don't think Max made it sufficiently clear in the sense that he did not like, and this is what Felipe kept saying, you did not go to the far right. Like, if you're letting someone through, you go to the very edge and let them through. You don't go like midway through the track, or like you're not really at the far right, especially with the track being so narrow. Be like, oh, I tried to give him.
Yeah, even considering the fact Max didn't know Lewis didn't know.
His idea of giving it back and then like getting DRS and over like crossing, I don't see it really an issue. That I think it's just being smart.
I'd say it's tactics, but yeah, that's.
I don't see an issue.
I'd say overtaking him in the same corner, the thing he did the second time, I see an issue with that because Lewis got a penalty for that in a 2008 Spa. I know this sounds like it was a very long time ago, but it's the last time this happened. They very clearly gave him a heavy penalty for this. They took him down from first to third because Kimi retired and he couldn't swap the position back. So they had to give him a big penalty. They gave him a massive one. I'm pretty sure it was like 25 seconds or something ridiculous. So it's a big penalty, it's a clear precedent. So the overtaking him into the same corner after he's given the position back, because we're talking about. This is not
the same corner. That's the thing.
We're talking about a punishment.
Max would give it on the straight and then take it into the first corner.
If he did that, that's fair enough. That's cheeky, but that's fair.
Yeah,
Like, if
that's
he's-
what Max did. He gave
Yeah.
it back on the straight and then overtook in the first corner. So it's not really.
That one, if he did that, yeah.
I thought it was
like,
incredible, like incredibly
smart.
smart of him. Like I actually found that very funny.
But what he so, back to the main incident. So yeah, Lewis drives into the back of him. It's understandable why he was hesitant, but he could have really gone for it also. Like,
But I think that's the thing. Lewis is if Max was behind him, Max would have gone for it. But I think the difference is Lewis is too cautious now.
he is very worried about retirement now. Yeah, because
Yeah.
even into the next race, if they both retire, Max still.
No,
wins.
it's not just that. Like Max doesn't care if he retires. Like if this is like you saw Max, the amount of times he put himself in a position where he would have crashed, he would have retired,
Yeah.
is incredible. And like he managed to come P2, which I think his driving yesterday was like actually really good, in terms of like the overtaking and stuff, like, and the defending. He defended really aggressively. You wouldn't tell like he's scared of losing the championship. Whereas Lewis is being like the whole season he's been so like the last time I've seen Lewis fight someone like the way Max is fighting was maybe like Nico in like 2016. After that he's had no one, so it's just been like it's okay if I'm cautious now, I'll just win the next few like 10 races and I win the championship.
I mean, even with Vettel, they were a lot more fair with each other because they'd give each other, both of them, a lot more room.
But
With
Max,
this one, you can't afford to do that because
exactly. But Max would
is
have
not
gone
going to
for
give
it.
you anything.
But Lewis is extremely cautious. That it's irritating to watch. Like the first time I've seen him like not care and really go for it was Brazil. That's why I enjoyed I loved watching Brazil because he overtook everyone and he was like he didn't care, he was sending it, you know, like.
Yeah, but
just,
the
like,
problem with
but
when Lewis
you go
sends it
with
around the
Max, it's just
outside,
like-
he ends up losing some of his front wing.
No,
like
but
it
like
happened in
with
Imola,
Max,
happened with
with
like
Ma-
all
with
of
that's the thing with Max. Like I'm saying, he could have overtook him there, but Lewis has become so cautious of Max that he's too scared to do anything. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, but I say he
He's
doesn't
so
have any
scared to
options.
do anything. Max doesn't have that. I think it's just because of like
Max
Lewis.
the way he is.
That's the thing. Max thinks like I think probably the idea that I still have like 10, 15 more years to win like my championship. Lewis is thinking I need to win the 8 this year, because I only have like say a year or 2 more. And you don't know with the new regulations, will I have a car to compete?
I say Lewis always sees the bigger picture in terms of championship, long run, all of this stuff.
No,
Max
but
is just
like at
kind
the
of,
same
I
time
need to
you
win
think
this race. Or
he's
even
so
if I don't win
cautious.
this race, I don't care.
But Lewis's attitude, Lewis had like the better car in perhaps some of the very few races at the beginning, and because he was too cautious. If not for Mercedes' change in luck, Lewis would have lost the championship. Just
Yeah,
because he
his-
was cautious in the first few races where he had a more equal, for instance, car than like mid-season Red Bull were just smoking Mercedes. So at the beginning he had more of a chance of kind of, like with Imola, if he was a bit harsher into that corner, gave Max less space, Lewis would have won that race. But because of that, Lewis got damage and all of that. Do you get what I mean? It's because he was too cautious. I don't like that, basically. I'm not saying don't take safety into account, but like I'm saying Lewis has just become too cautious.
No, yeah, he does. I don't know. I think we're going to see more of this into Abu Dhabi as well.
Yeah.
Purely because of the fact that if... I'm not saying Max will try and crash him out, but Max in the back of his mind, if they both retire, who cares? Like what he said in Monza, like, oh, that's what you get when you don't leave the space. Like, he didn't care.
I don't want it to end like that.
No, that would be
Just
a horrible
just
ending.
purely because I want Max to like win on pace, you know, like because he's
Whoever wins, you want to win them.
no, but
you want them to win on pace.
Max is gonna win on pace because he's a much better driver.
So, right. So before Max fans come in and compare this to Baku, I swear, your face actually annoys me when you say that. So,
Max is better than Lewis.
Max is, it's the smug face after, it's not even what you're saying, it's just your face. Right, so, just to confirm, this wasn't like Baku because it was proven afterwards, if we're comparing this to the brake testing, Lewis didn't actually brake test Vettel. He didn't
No, but
actually brake
Vettel
check
didn't
him.
get the
That was the
penalty
thing.
because he smacked into Lewis. He got the penalty because he went on the outside and smacked into Lewis
Yeah,
sideways.
but I'm saying if Max fans want to compare this, what I would compare this to is Silverstone, because in Silverstone, both of them you could say were at fault, Lewis more at fault, which is why it was only 10 seconds, and then same with here. So as much as the penalties didn't affect anything in the end, there we go, that's what happened. And then other than that, I mean, that's basically all that happened. So we had Max
Two
tries
red
to.
flags, 4 VSCs, a safety car.
Fun time.
Lewis crashing into Max. Max overtaking two cars in the first corner. Lewis overtaking Max and pushing him on the outside.
To round off what we've completed, Max then dives up he lets Lewis pass properly this time, then overtakes him again in the same corner, and then drives
No,
off
the same
DRS.
corner. He lets him through on the straight, and Lewis actually goes through this time. See, this is why I'm saying I actually blame Masi for this, because Lewis was told Max is letting you through, and you can see like Max actually goes a bit wider this time than the first time.
Right.
And then he lets him through, and then Lewis actually goes through this time. And he's not because of DRS or whatever, he just goes through. And Max just swings around. And this is on the straight, and then he just overtakes him to the first corner. So I don't see the issue you're talking about Lewis and stuff. If he does it like at the very end, lets him through in the corner and then overtakes him like goes.
I think that's what he did. I think he overtook him into braking into turn 27.
He lets him through on the like the straight, and then he overtook him into the corner. That's different. I'm saying if Max leads into the corner, brakes and slows down, and then Lewis goes on the inside, and then he just overtakes him on the inside, then there is an argument for you just let him through for the corner basically.
Well, here's the thing. So then after that, he ends up giving the place back anyway, and this time Lewis makes sure he shoves him off the track. And all of this.
That's what I'm confused about. Like his team radio at the time was, why are you giving Lewis back the position?
Yeah, but he said we didn't have to do that.
We didn't have to do that, exactly. So the team, there's no reason for Max to give him the place back. He gives it to him. That's the reason Max lost the race. He was keeping Lewis behind him because he gained so much in the first sector, and then he'd lose it in the second and third sector, but he'd leave enough of like a second gap. So it's fine. And then going into I don't understand why he gave him the position.
Is there
I can't think so much.
It's very against Max. You think he just drives into the sunset at this point,
That's why I was so confused. It's such an anti-Max kind of thing to do.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It was strange. So at this point, just before this, when he gave the place back and then didn't, or whatever happened, he got the 5 second penalty. This was for the turn 1 incident where he broke late, which was basically the same thing that happened in Brazil. Max complains afterwards. He said, I don't understand why I got a penalty. We both went off the track, all of this, even though he forced Lewis off the track. So of course they were both off. Either way, I understand.
But then I get what you're saying in terms of he didn't get one for Brazil. Why is he getting one now?
So I'm saying both of penalty. He's clearly saying neither a penalty. But either way, the argument is the FIA inconsistent. So
either don't give penalties or give penalties for both.
Honestly, it's dumb stuff. But to round off,
it's a lot tighter than Brazil. Same with the gravel, it's a lot.
So you think that they're taking the track into consideration again?
Yeah, but I think they shouldn't.
Honestly,
that's what they say. They say we do not take that into consideration. Yet they absolutely do take it into consideration. If they say we take this into consideration, you say fine, fair enough. Yeah, going into the gravel.
Case by case basis.
It's not the same as pushing a guy off onto tarmac. But just admit to it. Don't say we don't and then do it. That's the annoying part.
The clarity would be nice. Same way Ferrari still haven't been punished for their 2019 engine or whatever that was, but it's fine.
It's lost the championship, so I don't think.
True, yeah. I guess 2020 was their punishment. That was a horrific car. But to round off the race, Lewis sets fastest lap with his damaged front wing somehow, which was impressive to be fair. Alonso actually pitted to take this fastest lap off him. So right at the end, Alonso, we mentioned midway through the race, had a spin. His tyres were ruined. His race was ruined essentially at this point. He pits with only a few laps to go on soft tyres to try and get the fastest lap off Lewis. He completely fails, but it was just funny to hear that it happened. I didn't know about that. The team radio stuff. I just saw pictures of I saw stuff on Twitter about people saying he's still not over 2007, but that was fun to see. Speaking of the Alpines, Ocon, unfortunately, while cruising in third, keeping out of his way, minding his own business, if you were wondering what happened to him after we said he started on pole for the second restart, he was just chilling in third, and then Bottas comes and steals it off him.
It reminds me of Stroll, Bottas,
back in 2017.
Yeah.
Once again, we had two drivers backing into each other with a brake.
You have to give Bottas though Bottas went into Q3 for Mercedes on every single race he's ever been there.
That's a good start, yeah. All 100. That was 100 this race.
Yeah. 100 races for Mercedes. He's been into Q3 for all of them. Incredibly impressive.
He's consistent. Maybe he's Mr. Saturday. You know, maybe he's the real Mr. Saturday.
Not really, no. Because that's the difference is George takes his car from where it's like supposed to be to really where it's not. If he gets pole position every week, you still wouldn't call him Mr. Saturday because realistically he should be on pole every week. Like
That's fair.
if he's in an if he's in an Alpine or a McLaren, he's on pole every week. He'd be like, oh, Mr. Saturday is in the.
And then he ruins his Sunday and finishes 16th. Then he definitely Mr. Saturday.
Yeah.
But
That's something George needs to work on his race car.
Be very interesting to see him. We've only got one
But
more
that's
race for him and a Williams, and that's it.
But that's the thing, once he gets to the front, I think it'll be a lot easier because driving in the front is generally a lot cleaner than driving at the end of the grid.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you don't have to deal with all the 28 drivers driving around crashing into each other, as we saw today. So, the race ends, we have a massive fireworks show and over-the-top oil money display of tourism to try and bring people to Jeddah, which is, funnily enough, they're not even, I think they're using this race next year, and then beyond 2023 they're going to try and make an entirely different track somewhere else in Saudi for the race. So we're not even going to see this track. What they're saying is we're not even going to see this track. We'll see it once more and that's it, after all of this construction. So, fun
Such
times.
a nice track, I'd actually enjoy having it a few more years.
I mean, if you like the drama and the carnage, it's fair, and it's, I guess with a few tweaks it would be a nice addition to the
Yeah,
calendar.
they just need to pad up the safety, but other than that, it's a great race. And FIA needs to Michael Masi needs to come.
Yeah,
He came in
would
an
be
era
nice to
where
see
just
someone else
Mercedes were dominating and there wasn't really a lot of controversy that mattered.
uh,
Now all the controversy matters, and he's never dealt with controversy that actually matters for the title.
you can see why he may not be as experienced as someone like Charlie Whiting.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I'm saying. He dealt with a lot of critical points, you know.
Yeah.
How much do you hand out? When do you hand out? How do you deal with all this stuff? You know?
Well, that will sum up the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So just quickly, we're going to do a little preview into Abu Dhabi, seeing as the
You wanna
season
go over
finale.
the predictions, though.
We'll do that in a second. Yeah, the season finale is now going to be next week. Just quickly to mention the changes made. There have been a few adjustments on the track. Any idea who they're going to favour, you think, maybe?
I think Sector 1 is probably going to be the Red Bull sector.
I mean, Sector 1 is now literally just the left hand of Turn 1,
it's
the
more
flat
the
right of
downforce.
Turn 2.
Yeah, that's the downforce.
and then that's it.
Yeah, so Sector 1 would be Red Bull, probably.
Okay.
Sector 2 and 3... See, that's the thing. You'd say with the long straights...
I'd say Merck Sector 2, because those are just the two straights.
Yeah, but then Sector 3... I think even with Sector 2, with Red Bull, they had the pace to go on pole. So you could say over a single lap, Red Bull could have the pace.
True.
And I think that's the thing. If Max gets pole, I think Max will have enough to keep Lewis behind him. Max had enough to keep Lewis behind him somehow in Saudi.
For most of it, I mean...
He only let him by because of his tyres getting
No, but even then, he only let him by because he had to, because otherwise
Yeah,
he
yeah.
got a 5-second
But if
penalty.
you-
So
if
that
you
was
look-
illegal.
Yeah, so if you look at it, I don't think Lewis would have actually passed him. Abu Dhabi's a bit wider maybe, but...
I think there are longer straights, so with DRS, the problem with Abu Dhabi, if we're saying problem
Yeah,
for
but then
racing,
if
is
he
Lewis can overtake him just on the straight. He doesn't need to do it in the corner and then be forced wide. He can just do it in the straight. So
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's going to lose quite a bit because he's going to run a lower downforce. Then I think they'll run a higher downforce and then gain a lot through those, because that's what Max was doing. If you look at Max's timings and Lewis, Max was gaining on Lewis in the first sector. They go in 0.8, they come out 1.6, 1.7. He was gapping Lewis in sector 1, and Lewis would pull it back in sector 2 and 3, but still Lewis would be 0.1, 0.9 a second 0.2 behind. So Max was actually gaining way more in sector 1 than Lewis was actually gaining in sector 2 and 3 combined.
So do you think to reverse this now, if sector 1 is just 2 corners now, seeing as they've made the changes, sector 2 is, apart from another 2 corners, just 2 very long DRS straights, and then sector 3 is the technical part, you think Red Bull being pretty good at Sector 1 and then far superior in Sector 3 will be enough for him to
Yeah,
pull
I
up
think-
enough of
I
a
think
gap.
Max has the underlying, like if you watch like his laps in Saudi, you'd see like Lewis was cautious with his driving. Max was not. Max was every single lap. Max was like, this is the barrier. This is his tire. Like he was pushing it to gain as much of an advantage. I think he'll be able to gain if he gets pole, which I think he probably would get pole, like based on their like performance in Saudi.
Yeah.
I think that all they need to do is he needs to do what he's doing is keep Lewis within a few seconds behind you. Red Bull have a better stop than Mercedes. They always basically do.
Yeah.
And then just keep him behind you. Keep a 1 and second. Hold that, and then you won the championship basically.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
They can
I
always
would
ask
say-
Perez. They can always ask Perez to knock Lewis out.
and they could always ask Bottas to hit Verstappen.
Yeah,
I guess
but Bottas wouldn't do it.
Bottas would miss, yeah. But
No, that's
either
the-
way.
who would get the penalty for that? Red Bull, but Red Bull have already lost the constructors. The only issue is that they'll lose a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't think Red Bull, seeing as they want to sell drinks in extreme sports. To be fair, it would be a good look for extreme sports, bit of demolition derby and all that. But I would say, I'm not sure. I feel like it will be tough. I don't know. I feel like Lewis would be able to hold it out behind him purely because if
It's a
they
lot
manage to
harder on
set up
the
the car
inside.
properly. Actually, this is what I was going to say. It all depends on the setup of the car. So Lewis, if you looked at his steering wheel in his qualifying lap, it was a bit twitchy and all of this. So when you were saying he was cautious, I don't know if he was upset with the balance of the car, whatever it was, but it was very twitchy. Max's Red Bull looked like Mercedes of 2018 and 19 and all of this, where it's very smooth. Like one turning into the corner, perfectly smooth, it's all of this. And then he pushed the limit. Obviously, credit to him, he pushed the limits, he did very well on the lap. Lewis looked very twitchy on the steering wheel and all of this. So I think the track will suit whoever just sets up the car better. I think it's basically equal, really.
And I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. There's that, and there's I forgot what I was gonna say.
I don't even think we were talking about how easy it will be to overtake DRS,
I
wide
forgot.
track. We'll carry on, we'll see if you can remember it before we
Go
end it.
on, bring up the predictions from last time.
Almost, we're almost there. Just quickly
Come
before we
on.
do predictions, bro.
Do it!
This is going to be the 4th title decided in Abu Dhabi. To summarise the last 3, we've had Alonso stuck behind a slow Renault for the whole race in 2010. We've had 2014 where Lewis just won and Rosberg retired, so nothing basically happened. And then 2016...
He didn't retire. He finished the race, but he had
Oh,
a
it was
mechanical
behind.
issue.
Yeah, it was a mechanical issue that kind of ruined it. So, 2016, Lewis slowed down to hold up Rosberg. Vettel and Verstappen couldn't overtake him, even though they were all going very slowly. So the theme here is people can't overtake. Do you think that will change? I'm assuming that will probably change because of the regulations this year, right? Like, they've made it easier to follow, like, a little bit.
Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. Saudi, the degradation on the tires was very low. That's why Lewis was able to keep up with Max for a very long time.
Yeah.
His deg was very low. Abu Dhabi is not known for low degradation.
I think it will be slightly higher. It's not known for high deg, but it's definitely...
But if
it
he's
should be higher
following
than
in the
Saudi.
hot air for how long the track is, like it's a longer circuit, not so as in like length, it's longer as in laps.
Oh, okay. You mean the total track time
Yes.
plus the laps and stuff? Ah.
So it would be a lot if they put on same tires. Lewis is in a much worse position because Lewis is going to be behind him for a very long time. All Max has to do is keep him in his dirty air for a long time, and Lewis's tires are going. It's not known to be a very, very high like deg race, but like
No. But now we will get on, finally, to your, I guess, favourite part, seeing as you've performed so well in this.
it's
The
3-0.
predictions.
It's 3-0.
Don't tell me you checked this because you've been so
No, I
smug about all
haven't.
this
I
stuff.
haven't checked it yet.
Alright, let's see what was
But
said,
I
'cause
I know kind of what happened basically.
I definitely know that I didn't have a great week, as always. You know what I'm thinking of doing for next year? We've got to do F1 Fantasy. I managed to log back into my F1 Fantasy account this week. We need to do F1 Fantasy, bro.
No,
We're doing it next year.
too much effort.
No, bro, it'll be funny.
Why are you looking at in Saudi, bro, not Qatar?
There it is.
Yeah.
Right, we'll do it for we're doing fantasy next year. Anyway, results. Where's the results? Results. Okay, so our predictions are qualifying top 3. You said Lewis, Max, Bottas, which,
Wait, was it? Oh no, Max came in P3. Nah, it's so good.
come on, because of the failed lap, I was right. It was actually Lewis, Bottas,
Okay,
Max.
1-0 to you.
So I'll take that. Now we're going on to the top 5 in the race. Oh, God. Oh, here we go. So you said Lewis, yes. Max, yes. Bottas, yes. Charles, no, because of the accident. And then Fernando, no, because he was nowhere near. The actual top 5, just to clarify, was Lewis, Verstappen, Bottas, Ocon, Ricciardo. Now mine was Lewis, Max, again, yes, quite obviously. Perez, no, because of the crash. Sainz, no, nowhere near. And then Lando.
So I
Also
won.
definitely not.
I won the race. You won the qualifying. So I'm saying either we both get 0, because it's a draw, or we both get half. Because when I won, I got 1. So it's 3-0 basically. So it's either 3.5 to half, or just 3-0 and just keep it like that.
We'll just go 1 each. We'll go 1 each.
No, because that means like it looks like you won 1. No.
No. Well,
3.5 to half.
Just to clarify,
2-0.
driver of the day, Charles and Sainz, no.
It
was very weird. I'm surprised it wasn't Ocon. Ocon really deserved driver of the day this time.
No, but Max did so well keeping Lewis behind. So.
Yeah, until he didn't, because he illegally kept.
But it was over by then. Like everyone had voted by them basically. So
yeah,
3.5 to half basically. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, new predictions this time. We're going into the new ones.
Going over.
New predictions.
Max
right.
Lewis.
Top 3 qualifying. What you said?
Max Lewis Bottas.
Max Lewis Bottas. Okay. All right.
I have hope that Max pulls it out of the bag.
I do feel like he.
Because I think it'll make also like I hope Max wins. I want Max to win, to be fair. Just to see your
just
face.
keep saying that. Yeah,
Just
you've
to
said that
see
like
your
40 times. I could make a compilation of the number of times you said that. I'm gonna say, you know what, to switch things up, I'm gonna say Lewis, Max, Bottas. Do I even back Bottas to? Yeah, I do back Bottas to come third. Right.
It's qualifying, bro. He always says it, bro.
Right, your race top 5.
Max Lewis Bottas. Who do I back? Oh, Ferrari's been much better at these tracks. So maybe Charles.
They did mess up this weekend.
Charles, and then who is people? Perez, maybe. Yeah, Perez.
Perez. Okay. To be fair, they were both on for a good finish until they crashed into.
I don't really like the last 2. I'm hoping to get the top 3 right.
That's it. But the podium's the easiest part to predict. Right. Oh, this is. Oh no.
Come on, go for something different. Say Sainz is gonna win. I want to say Sainz.
I do really want to predict like Bottas wins or something stupid. Like I do, just imagine this.
Just give it to Lewis.
Lewis and Max finished 8th and 9th.
Oh, that would be so funny.
Imagine that. Imagine that.
That would be so funny. That would be such a great race. And like Lando wins his first race. That honestly, that would be incredible.
You know what? Oh,
Don't do that. Don't.
Bottas wins. Bottas wins. Then Lewis.
Then they're gonna
then
switch
Max. Now. Oh yeah. Oh.
If it's Bottas, Max, Lewis, fair enough, but because then Bottas would throw Max into like Lewis. Like so down, so Lewis.
No, you know what? I'm gonna stick with this. It's probably really stupid, but I don't care at this point. We're gonna go with it. I'd say maybe the gap's too big. Whatever. I'm thinking there might be a scenario where they just can't do it. You know what? Yeah, Bottas is incompetent, bro. You think Bottas could let him by? If Max is
yes, Bottas has let him by so many times, bro.
He lets them both by. He just
just race it out between you guys. No problem. Come on. That's not realistic, though.
No, it's not.
If
But
that's
I'm
what you
thinking
want-
they're both gonna finish like
Low.
You know what? I don't even care anymore. I'm gonna send it. Bottas,
Lando.
Perez,
Lando.
Bottas, Perez,
Lando, Ricardo, Charles.
Sainz. Yep, there you go. Why do I keep backing Sainz? No, I'm going Charles.
And then you need 2 more.
No, Ricardo. Whoa, definitely not. Hold on. You know what? Then Lewis and Max. We'll just put Lewis and Max in there for some reason. Actually, no, they're not even top 5. Screw them both. Who's good? You know,
Gasly.
Lando, Gasly. Yes, Gasly. I forgot about Gasly. Right, driver of the day.
Max. If he wins the champion.
Max. All right. You know who I'm gonna go for? I'm Kimi. Because it's his last race, I just want to assume that the fans will just vote Kimi for the sake of voting Kimi. I'm trying to make sure I don't pick the same thing as you. But
so then you
there we go.
equal me. At least you get some points.
I don't care. No,
Instead
I'd
of
rather
you just getting 0.
If this happens,
0.
If this happens, that's like 10 points. Look at
Nah,
I've predicted the top 5 to be
I don't
Bottas,
care. It's
Perez,
still one.
Charles, Lando,
I
Gasly.
still won, bro. I don't care. I've won basically the season.
You have, which is why we're doing Fantasy F1 next year.
Okay. So you can get destroyed and get smoked over the course
Well,
of the season.
okay, well now you have to do it. Honestly.
I did destroy it, so that's what.
Okay, which is why the Fantasy F1 would be funny. We're doing that. We're doing an episode on our Fantasy F1 teams next year when they come out. Right.
We can do a whole table with everyone, like if anyone. wants to do
Yeah,
it.
we'll make a league. If people want to join, we'll make a Fantasy F1 league so you can battle with us and see who wins.
Destroy us.
Winner gets to be a guest.
I don't want to come up.
You purposely lose and then leave. Well,
I never wanted to be on the podcast.
well, that sums up our 2 hours of being Yusuf sounding like you've been trapped here against your will, but that's the end.
Well,
of the
at
podcast.
least Max is gonna win the championship, like hopefully so.
Just wrap it up, bro. You did the intro. You wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening, and hopefully see you next week post Abu Dhabi, and we'll know who's the world champion at that time.
We will. I'm so
Anyways,
tense for it.
Thank you guys for listening. See you next week.